Ladies and gentlemen, the next session will begin shortly. Please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, the next session will begin shortly. Please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, the next session will begin shortly. Please take your seats. Ladies and
Very good morning. I hope you don't mind I speak in English. Uh, some of my fellow panelists speak very fluent Korean later on. Maybe they will be able to mix, right? So let's begin, right? First of all, welcome to all of you all to GSMA's M360 APAC in Seoul. Um, so this session, right, which we're going to have is basically digital transformation, strategies and case studies across sectors in 5G era. So my name is Kevin Henry. I'm the head of strategic engagement for GSMA APAC. Okay, this is the agenda that it will last about 90 minutes. We'll have two keynote speakers from KT and also from Ericsson, then followed by a panel discussion with various esteemed industry players that will be moderated by myself, okay? So let me firstly set the expectation in terms of opening this whole session. I would like to share with you, right, key insights based on two GSMAI reports called the APAC Mobile Economy and Digital Societies Report. So in March, the Global Mobile Economy Report 2023 was published, and in July, we actually had the APAC Mobile Economy Report, right, which you can actually get it online. So some key highlights, right, from this report that we can see is that by 2030, even though 4G is still the predominant technology, right, globally, APAC is basically having 55%, right? But you can see it has grown. So if you look at the top, it's actually basically APAC versus the global numbers, right? So when you look at APAC, you can see that 5G basically has grown from 4%, right, in 2022 to 41% by 2030. Globally, 5G has grown from 12% to 54%. So for mobile internet users, right, and unique mobile subscribers, okay, APAC is closing the gap between the global projections by 2030. You can see 61% versus 64%, right, top there and bottom, and basically 70 versus 73% respectively, okay? But if you look at smartphones, right, as a percentage of connections, we see that APAC will exceed the global figures. It's 94% versus 92%. And if you look down there, you will see out of which the top 3 smartphone markets in APAC by 2030, India will have 1.3 billion, Indonesia 381 million, and Japan 168 million. So this slide shows APAC pioneers, right? Like South Korea and Singapore. They lead the way with 5G exceeding 93% by 2030. And subscriber penetration, smartphone adoption will exceed 95% by 2030. Okay, here basically you have emerging markets, right? Like India and Indonesia. 4G will still be the predominant network used, about 56% by 2030. However, subscriber penetration, 64% by 2030. But smartphone, as I said, it will be more than 94%. So here we can see that in 2022, the total economic contribution of the mobile ecosystem in APAC was about USD 810 billion, right? And it's on target to contribute 1 trillion by 2030. Out of that, 5G will be contributing about 133 billion of that 1 trillion. So, so during this event, right, we are going to launch the Digital Societies Asia Pacific 2023 report. All right. So please try to get a copy. There's limited numbers printed. I think you can either approach me or approach my colleague Christina. So what are the key components of a digital society, right? As we can see here, the base is connectivity, where fast, reliable, and affordable connectivity to the internet is basically the foundation for the creation, distribution, and consumption of digital applications and services. So on top of connectivity, what do you have, right? It's digital identity, which is a prerequisite, right, to socio-economic development. Here, mobile technology is uniquely positioned to enable accessible and inclusive digital identity. With connectivity and digital identity as the base, right, then digital citizenship, digital lifestyle, and digital commerce would be the driving factors of a digital society. As you can see on the left and the right of this diagram is digital platforms and whole of government's approach. These two are needed to support a digital society. So, as you can see, all right, here there is a transition from digital societies to digital nations, and it would require resilience, basically economies that can withstand present and future shocks, inclusion, right, bridging the digital divide for all segments, resources. With limited resources, improve the efficiency and productivity, and sustainability finally, which ensures the environment is protected and decarbonization objective realized. Okay, so here we see key components needed for a digital nation, which is people, infra, innovation, right, data governance, and security. So here is my final slide where I would like to share, right, the emerging technologies which will shape the digital nation agenda, which most of you are already aware. So AI or generative AI, blockchain and crypto, drones, extended reality, Internet of Things, and quantum compute. So next session, we will have our two speakers. First speaker would be Mr. Kangrim Choi, who's the Senior VP and Head of AI Mobility Business Unit for KT. He has been leading KT's AI mobility business, including connected car, autonomous driving, transportation, and digital logistics since 2013. With over 25 years of extensive experience in ICT and automotive industry, he has been engaged in various advisory positions. Currently, he is the chairman of the Mobility Platform Division of the Korean Society of Automotive Engineers, vice chairman of the Korea Institute of Intelligent Transport Systems, and also board member of Korea Electric Vehicle Charging Service. His presentation title is KT's Digital Transformation in the Mobility Industry. Please.
Thank you very much for warm introduction, Kevin. 안녕하세요. Good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Choi Kang-nim, Kang-nim Choi. I'm Senior Vice President and Head of AI Business Mobility Unit at KT. Today, I would like to share some ideas what we're doing today in the mobility industry, especially, and starting with our progress and portfolio from the digital transformation perspective. And I would like to introduce a little bit more details what we are doing in the automotive, transportation, and logistics, actually under the mobility umbrella. And then I would like to suggest how we can collaborate to co-create more use cases on the mobility digital transformation. Okay, before I talk about what we are doing, but I would like to start some snapshot and key numbers. As you may know, a lot of people are talking about the connected car, and many institutes is forecasting that by 2030, all the new sales cars will be connected. However, even within last year, 2022, what happened in Korea? Actually, one of the largest global automotive manufacturer, Hyundai Motor Group, is based in Korea. And in terms of a new car sales, already 98% is connected today in Korea. That's quite huge number, and I think we're leading the industry in the global. And actually, KT has made a good contribution on this number as well. We are taking about 50% of the market share on the connected car market in Korea. If you just narrow down on the OEM side, it's over 65%. So we, KT, started this kind of connectivity business in the connected car since 2004 because we believe connectivity is very essential because digital transformation is starting with collecting, connecting, and also utilizing the data itself. So what we are doing today is we're mainly working with a lot of automotive OEMs. We're working 14 global OEMs today. And we're also working on the transportation area as well, mainly focusing on the government-funded project. And also we're recently started some logistics business as well based on our AI technologies. With these three main areas, I would like to start with some key features. So for example, for automotive industry, as I mentioned, we're working with 14 OEMs today. And as of today, we have around 3.6 million connected cars in Korean market today. And also, in case of transportation, we have been achieved digitalize the very physical infrastructures from the transportation perspective within 10 cities. And every day, we're dealing with 1,300 vehicles, actually fleet vehicles, by applying our AI-optimized solution that I'm going to introduce later in the logistics industry. So let me start with the automotive digital transformation first. So KT is doing a lot of things, not only just connectivity, but mainly for connectivity. We're not working not only just in Korean market. Today, I just mentioned that 3.6 million number is only in Korea. But while OEM is trying to export their vehicles to the global market, their demand is how we can manage all the global connectivity in a single SIM or a single platform. So we developed the in-house platform called the Giga Connect, as you can see, to support our automotive OEM clients. Not only just to support, but we are trying to give more benefit to OEM side by providing, we named it Hybrid One SIM, which is mainly has a features to combining or providing the both multi-IMSI and also EYCC RSP, remote SIM provisioning. So that means from OEM's perspective, they can save a lot of the effort from the SCM perspective. With a single SIM, they can just export car to any place, any country. They can connect with a local network. Okay, so we just kicked off this project early this year, and now working on the 3 countries in APAC. Okay, while we're doing this kind of global connectivity services, we're trying to apply AI or automation to give benefit and more efficiency to ourselves or even for KT's operation and also OEM side as well. So let me talk about first how we can leverage this AI and automation for our efficiency. So basically, our network should be managed automatically because people cannot stay in the room all the time, 24 hours. So we developed 3 AI-based platform which can automatically detect and also forecast our network status while we're dealing with 3.6 million cars. That was one thing. And also, since as I mentioned, they want to expand this to global market, not only just in Korea, which means from billing perspective, it's more complicated because B2B, B2C, or even the multi-APN is needed because OEM do not want to pay for all from their pocket because they want to bill sometimes to end the customer, or we have to split into multi-customers and partners as well. So we try to do some RPA, robotic process automation, for our building system. So this is main purpose that we are doing, why AI will be helpful for our operation. From OEM's perspective, they want to have more services. Actually, you can imagine, automotive is most traditional manufacturing company, very traditional. But now they want to sell not only just car, but they want to sell the software and services combining with its hardware, the car. So we already started to support and provide our AI voice assistants to multiple OEMs. And also, we're going to launch a new large AI model pretty soon, within a month, named Medium. And this will be available in the car as well. Also, since KT is not only just MNO, but we're working on the multimedia content services, we're one of the largest one. So we're already providing streaming music, streaming video services for OEMs, but not only limited to our own, but we're working with third parties, like a global brand. So while we are providing this kind of AI services and the media contents, OEM can sell more service, not only just car, with their digitalized service one. So product, service, and business model, they can digitalize with our capability. So let me talk about transportation. What's the first keyword if you think about the transportation? Many road network, right? That is very big investment on the physical infrastructures, but it's limited. We cannot put not the money on the constructing the physical infrastructures. However, what if we apply software or algorithm on the existing infrastructures? That was kind of big homework that we have done so far. So we try to adapt our in-house data or vision-based optimization engines on the existing infrastructures. So now we're trying to manage how we can signal operation, road traffic, how we can get the incident real-time basis. That's what we are doing today. So now, this kind of traditional transportation project, mainly funded government, is changing into the new concept. For example, we're now trying to get what is traffic flow improvement, how we can analyze it, how we can get the figures by having the data or analyzing the data. So here are 4 main platforms that we have developed so far, and we are applying to 10 cities that I mentioned. So first one is RoadSense. Simply speaking, is AI-based, video analytic platform based on the deep learning. So I'll show some more detailed demonstration afterward. And the second one is RoadTwin. Based on the RoadSense that I just mentioned, we're collecting a lot of data based on the Vision AI. And then how we can, analyze this data. So we just basically using kind of detailed twin platform named the RoadTwin based on the data collected by RoadSense. And the third one is precise positioning. Now, many MNO is working on this side as well, but we have completed the nationwide coverage and implementation with 2 global players in Korea. And now we're supporting the OEMs, very, very precise positioning, less than 30 centimeters nationwide. Okay. The last one is mobility makers. This is our kind of heritage of our transportation area, because we have been doing a lot of the government-funded project, especially in the sector of the autonomous driving. Autonomous driving, it takes some time, but now we're trying to do a lot of POC and the pilot project. So we have developed in-house platform called Mobility Makers to support the intelligent monitoring system. Okay. So here's some example and a video clip, very short one. The left one is a RoadSense. As you can see, our Vision AI can detect all the object. But as you can see, some object is boxed with green, some was pink. We can tell this is passenger car or truck or even bus, okay? So by having this, what we can do, so we can collect all of data, number of vehicles, the speed of vehicles, and the type of vehicles. And then what we've done is we move this data on the cloud called the road twin, basically a digital twin platform. So we analyze this data. If you are, let's think about if you are working in some municipal government, which is mainly dealing with this kind of data, how would you do that? So digital twin engine will help you to analyze this data, and you can have some new policy, for example, for signal controlling, for example. So this is what we have done so far with this kind of 10 cities. Each city has a little different demands, but basically we use 4 major platforms that we have developed so far, and then we have slightly different application based on their purpose and demand. The last area that I want to talk about under the mobility is logistics. Maybe you are very wondering why KT Telco is working on this area. And probably if you think about logistics, very first keyword might be very labor intensive, not only just in Korea. Still, this is a huge problem. Also, it's very analog based. Still, they are working based on the paper. They are calling everyone. And also, we cannot miss greenhouse gas emission. This is a big initiative from ESG perspective. So just like what we did on the transportation side, we try to think about and imagine how we can change this kind of very traditional business into digital world based on our ABC capability, AI, big data, and cloud. So we try to optimize the fleet operation, and also we try to optimize fulfillment center. This is very labor-intensive space environment. And also, in case of Korea, there are about 400,000 fleet drivers. They are mainly basically individual entrepreneurs, which means we need to match that carriers or drivers with the shippers directly based on the digital infrastructures. So now we're trying to get the more results. For example, how we can improve the labor efficiency, or also we are trying to make better industry itself. Okay. So what we studied for this business, collecting the data, that was very essential part. So basically, KT is not logistics company, but we're delivering a lot of handset set-top box. That transaction has a very meaningful number, like a 14 million every year. And also, we have a mobility data from our connected car business. So based on this, we developed in-house algorithm with an 18 patent. And also, as a result, we developed 3 major platforms for optimizing fleet, and also fulfillment center, and for brokerage or matching. So this is a real story, not by us, but by our key client called Lotte, one of the largest retailers in Korea. And they could apply our AI-based platform to optimize their fleet operation over 70 stores. As a result, they cut down the travel distance by 22% and also travel time as well. So they are happy, their drivers, workers are happy as well with this kind of solution. So now we're working Korea's top 5 retailers applying our AI platform, such as List4, Disco, and Brokerry that I just mentioned, which means we're dealing with 1,300 vehicles every day with this algorithm. But not only just in Korea. We believe we have a good reference here in Korea. And actually, we already started to collaboration with Singtel, and now working with Singpost, actually one of the largest parcel company in Singapore. So based on this kind of experience, as a result and as a conclusion, I would like to suggest a couple of things. First, KT has developed in-house platform. Actually, 7 big platforms under the 3 major business area: automotive, transportation, and logistics. By having this platform, it's a good weapon for us, and we apply this to the real world, real project, which means we're collecting more data, mobility data. And because we are basically MNO, we have a lot of data about the customer. So customer universe, GeoUniverse is our existing platform based on our customer data. Having more data, I think we can have better intelligence. So we're deeply working on the deep learning and optimization based on our data platform, which means we're going to have a more and better intelligence suite that can be fed into our existing platform. So we believe this is kind of a digital transformation flywheel that we can leverage. And also, we would like to welcome you to involve in our digital transformation flywheel, because we still need more data. We still need more AI technologies. We still more participant from the other MNOs and MVNOs as well. So I think this is pretty much of my presentation, and thanks for joining this session, and thanks for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kangrim Choi. Sharing KT's mobility, digital transformation, especially using AI. Next, we have our esteemed speaker, Mr. Christopher Price. He's the Director of Advanced Technology for Ericsson. Chris is responsible for driving technology, innovation, alignment in the telecommunications industry. He's based in Tokyo, Japan. Chris has over 25 years experience working with Ericsson, holding executive positions, focused on communication and cloud technologies, both through technical engagement, leadership, and board directorial roles. As the forefront of ICT technology shifts from the early days of software defined to cloud-native operations, he has extensive experience with open source standardization and industrial product. His presentation title is 5G Digitization, A Journey of Transportation. Go ahead.
Thank you. Front and back. Forward and back. Okay. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to the panelists that are coming up next to talk about digitization. It's an extremely exciting topic for us in the telecommunications industry. I've been in telecommunications long enough to know that it is the next big thing. There were some keynotes this morning which really resonated with me, going from sending text messages to each other in the early days to how do we use IP, to the smartphone coming through, and then the revolution. And I want to talk through a little bit of that history in terms of digitization and in terms of what it means, not necessarily for a telecommunications operator per se or any particular activity, but as a society, I think the impacts that digitization continues to have through the expansion of mobility and connectivity is extremely important. So if I think through 2G, 3G, fine, we got IP into the network, smartphones came out in 3G, and then 4G things really took off. And that was really through market penetration, not so much technology innovation. And one of the things I think we hear in Asia especially is the odd Gs are bad Gs and the even Gs are good Gs. I kind of think of it the other way. I'm an engineer at heart, so for me, the odd Gs are the fun Gs. That's where you do stuff and it doesn't work and you start to build things. And the even Gs is when the ecosystem evolves around that and you can sort of sit back and watch this amazing change happen. And today, we really are in the middle of one of these transitions in 5G where we're trying to do so much new stuff. We're trying to enable so many new capabilities that we just have to push our way through this and continue to develop. But for me, this is essentially, I saw this picture and I thought, wow, that's 4G. That's a guy staring at his phone, walking down the street with a backpack on. For me, that is exactly what 4G was like. Everyone looking at their telephones all the time, whether they're playing games, whether they're watching TV, whether they're paying their taxes. Everything happened on a smartphone in 4G. And digitization had a huge uplift across the global economy during this period in time. The app economy really blossomed. And we can thank a guy from California who spent like 30 years trying to figure out how to make a video phone work and finally found his way with the smartphone, to Samsung coming and Google coming along and really driving the Android app economy as well. And these two competing technologies, the Android and the Apple technology sort of driving the market, competing with each other, pushing and striving, really drove what is essentially the app economy that came out through 4G. And what did we see in digitization during that period? We saw mobile broadband emerge. In other words, I'm no longer just reading a web page, now I'm watching movies, or I'm uploading movies, or I'm doing new things. I have a lot of capability coming into my handset, tens of megabits. Over-the-top entertainment and utility became commonplace. YouTube exploded through the smartphone. YouTube exploded because I can start to watch videos on the move. I can sit on the bus in the morning after I've had my first cup of coffee and just sit back and relax and watch something. These were amazing digitization capabilities that affected everyone on the planet, I would say. Utility is extremely important as well. What we see with the smartphones now is like I joked before, you can pay your taxes on a smartphone. You can pay your water bills. You can check your physical mailboxes, whether there's something sitting there for you. A lot of the things that we would normally have to go and check somewhere, to walk somewhere, we can experience through digitization towards our smartphones, towards those devices that we carry around with us. And social and support services. I have actually spoken to a doctor through a smartphone app and had a consultation. It's not uncommon that these things start to emerge more and more. More of our government services are coming through on smartphones, and more of our health and well-being services are coming through on smartphones. This is one of the journeys of digitization. We talk about information management and information control and artificial intelligence, and all of these are the capabilities that help build the digitization infrastructure that we need, as well as the networks. You know, it's no good if you can't take it with you. What we also saw with 4G, I would say, is the early stages of enterprise adoption. COVID wasn't a great experience, but it did push us a lot towards mobility and digitization of the workforce. A lot of things that we've tried in enterprise. So 4G was a decade. We didn't just do these things. We did a lot of things in 4G. We tried to do factory automation. We tried to do mining automation. We tried to do rural services with 4G. We tried to do a number of new applications and new services that failed. We did a lot of things that didn't succeed. And so what we have coming out of 4G, and as we come into 5G, is a lot of invested effort in standardization of new services and new capabilities that are essentially designed to solve for a mountain of postponed potential in mobility. We have new capabilities for network slicing. We have new capabilities for network resiliency, new capabilities, higher bandwidths, guaranteed latency settings, a number of different things which are learned through the 4G experience, where we failed to bring services to a mobile network that are essentially postponed to bring into 5G. And while this guy is pretty much my vision of 4G, 5G I don't think will be experienced through a smartphone. 5G will be experienced through a lot of new capabilities and new interactions and new ways of working within a network. At Ericsson, of course, we build network equipment. We help people build networks. We help people automate and drive network development. We don't necessarily build fancy gloves or headsets or anything like that. But what's important is that those gloves and headsets work on the networks that we provide. So we work very closely with, for instance, VR and AR providers to test what does it take to make a VR and AR headset work? Where does it work well? How does it work in a private setting, and how does it work in a macro network setting? What are the capabilities that you can bring to bear in each of those networks, and what's missing? What do we have to solve in the next 3 to 5 years? What are the hard things that we need to bring into the network to solve for the emergence of augmented and extended realities? We still believe very strongly that this will be one of the defining capabilities that comes out through 5G. And it may be that the ecosystem flourishes in 6G, but that's after the challenge has been posed and overcome. 5G is where we're going to solve these problems. Haptics is another area we see emerging. The ability to touch and feel remotely with different tools and different processes. Remote maintenance of devices, robots that can climb poles that you can interact with and feel pushback. Those sorts of things are starting to emerge. There are people building these capabilities. As a guy that has to put a hat on and climb a pole, I'd probably much prefer to be downstairs with a VR headset and my gloves on than up the pole. These things affect everyone. So the mobile network helps deliver these services. Innovative companies help develop them. And then society benefits. Because the guy who's climbing the pole with the handset, that particular use case, I don't know where that could be applied. Probably a million different ways, especially into manufacturing. Other areas that we're looking into are communications and interaction, the societal evolution that comes with complete digitization. So Holographic communications. Ericsson has developed a holographic communication suite. It's not a product, so to speak, but it's something that we've done to show that it works and to prove that it can be leveraged in our networks so that it can be done on a global scale. These types of communication techniques will emerge through 5G and into 6G. We'll see new ways of interacting and new ways of doing Zoom meetings, for instance. And finally, agricultural and rural. This is an area where we see a lot of uplift in 5G. As we bring in lower cost chipsets for 5G, as we bring in low band and high reach, and as we look at how we can optimize antenna for transmission so that we can actually begin to do distributed high scale IoT, we'll see more uptake in the agricultural and farming areas on sensing, tracking of cattle, for instance. If you want to look up something interesting, there is the Connected Cow project in Australia, which is essentially used, and there's one in New Zealand as well, which is essentially used to track cattle. So you don't worry about fences anymore; they cost a lot of money. Just put a little necklace on your cow and let it go and eat, and then go collect it later. But these types of innovations and these new ways of solving problems come with a digital capability that we bring with 5G, and this is what's really important for us. 5G then, I could talk a little bit about it. We talked earlier about 6G at the keynotes, and 6G is going to be great. I don't yet think we've solved the 5G problems. I think we have a long way to go. But this is essentially a slide that we use in Ericsson to talk about the future capable network. And we see the first wave, of course, enhanced mobile broadband. This is one of the first things we delivered with 5G, a little bit of extra bandwidth. It was handy. It didn't really solve any major problems. Fixed wireless access has solved problems. It's brought the internet into households that haven't been able to have it. Wide area IoT is an emerging area, as I mentioned. And mission critical, being able to absolutely deliver when you need to deliver through one of these networks. These are what we're working on today. Moving forwards, we'll see private networks engaged and collaborating with the macro network. API monetization, we heard about this morning, a very big area. 5G venues, so high millimeter bandwidth, high millimeter frequency bandwidth, high bandwidth millimeter wave frequency deployments where you can get extremely good throughput and extremely good experiences for XR and other types of experiences. And moving forwards, haptics, massive digital twinning, XR gaming, immersive experiences, and industrial grade networks everywhere. This is where we see 5G going. And to me, this higher level, this is our transition to 6G. This is where ecosystems will take advantage of all the work we've done over the next few years, and we'll see massive uptake. One of the challenges we have is that the deployment of 5G is not super aggressive. As mentioned, the first thing we really got out of 5G was a little bit better broadband. We got a little bit more frequency, a little bit more bandwidth. And one of the things that we've found is that people aren't willing to pay 20% more for 20% more bandwidth. It's a challenge to create a revenue growth based on our current models in the communications industry. Challenges for CSPs, almost everyone is trying to consider how to deliver revenue growth profitably. Almost everyone is trying to figure out how do we pivot our businesses and how do we change our customers' perceptions. To be honest, I think that's not such a concern. I think you'll find that customers' perceptions aren't that hard to change. Deliver a good product and they will come. If anyone has proven that, Google, Amazon, and others have. And 85% persuading senior management to look at long-term views of creating revenue. And what we've seen statistically is if we follow the ARPU trend, so if we continue to try and grow based on selling to customers, we're going to see around about a 0.75% growth year over year as an industry. But if we start to look at how to engage in enterprise, how to engage in other forms of digitization and monetize those capabilities, then we see around about a 12% growth year over year. So it's very important that we look at these new capabilities and we develop and drive them forward into the market. Now, I want to put this slide up because it's an interesting slide. It explains how to do something, how to put a slice, for instance. So this is the process, the 10 steps that you need to do in order to create a slice for a gaming company to deliver a great user experience. very important that we know how to do this. As operators know how to do this. This is the bread and butter of operators, and it's difficult and it's complicated and it takes a lot of time. And gaming companies kind of need to understand what we're doing, and we need to do trial and error. There's a lot of work involved in doing this. Now, the challenge we have as an industry is that a gaming company, they're pretty fickle. Either they're going to do it or they're not going to do it, and they need to know that this week because next week they're doing something else. They can't be spending hours and hours and weeks developing slicing solutions for games and so on and so forth, for the most part. And they're fickle because their consumers are fickle, right? It's not just to point at that. We're only going to play games that are fun. We're only going to play games that work properly and entertain us. So what we need to do as an industry is look at these 10 steps and then figure out, okay, how do we do something that attracts the gaming industry? Give them an API to call that solves their problem. And it's as simple as that. And if you take this across all industries, when we talk about digitization, we can't be doing 10 different processes for every single thing that happens. We need to boil this down to consumable bite-sized slices. So API exposure, I think, is extremely important for the evolution of 5G and as we move forwards to 6G. And I don't think there's anyone that would really disagree with that statement these days. But there's a lot of work involved. 5G is going to be all about making these 10 steps into that API call. And there's a lot of effort to do so, and there's a lot of things that we need to think about as we go through the process. If we talk about how this works in general, we expect to see network operators exposing value-add capabilities. This is how we differentiate. Operators have been a little bit of the man in the middle that's been forgotten. There is value in the networks. We need to expose that value. We need to create usable solutions that add value to over-the-top or consuming services. And then you can have a number of platforms. Ericsson has recently purchased one called Vonage. It's not the only one out there. A lot of operators have their own. A lot of operators collaborate with Vonage. What we're really trying to do here is get access to developer ecosystems that drive digitization solutions, whether they're government, whether they're games, whether they're entertainment. These applications are extremely important in creating money in the network. It's not the users anymore. It's not the guy with the smartphone you're going to charge more money. He's going to pay more money to, for instance, applications. And then we need to have a business relationship there. So the APIs is really about developing that cohesive business relationship. I'm going to do a little bit of, I'm not a sales guy, but I was putting this slide together and I showed it to my communications team, and they said, oh, Vonage, yes, will we? And they said, well, we don't have a 1.1 million developers on it anymore. Now we have 1.4 million developers, which is actually astounding in my mind. I thought that was a great sign because it means that the ability to interact and develop towards networks is becoming extremely important, and more people are starting to look at how do I consume these types of APIs and how do I start to make use of the network as a differentiator for my products. And I think that's probably over time. I don't know how long I've taken. Sorry. But thank you very much. Enjoy the panel that's coming up.
Thanks very much, Christopher, for sharing how is Ericsson as an industry player adding value to the digital transformation agenda now and the future. Okay, next up we have the panelists. So I'll introduce the panelists one by one. We have Dr. Gao Yujia. He's the Assistant Group Chief Technology Officer for National University of Health Systems in Singapore. Dr. Yujia is a consultant surgeon in liver, pancreas, and liver transplant surgery at NUS. Number two, we have Arpad Kirali. He is the partner in business consulting, specializing on telco media technology for EY in ASEAN. He has close to 25 years experience, including 17 years in Asia, leading pivotal strategy, commercial growth, and transformations for telco in the region. Third up, we have Mr. Zaif Siddiqui, Executive Director and Head of 5G and IoT Global Services at NTT Communications. He is responsible to promote NTT Communications Corporation's enterprise 5G and IoT solutions in collaboration with NTT Group companies and ecosystem partners under the brand of Docomo Business. Fourth, we have Mr. Sergey Figueroa. He is the Chief Technology and Innovation Officer for I2CAT Foundation in Spain. He is also a board member of the Spanish Digital Association, AMITEC, and of the Catalan Telecom Association, telcos.cat. Finally, but not least, Ashish Gupta, Head of Strategy and Operations for Circles in Singapore. He oversees the GTM strategy and business development for Circles and cloud-native SaaS platform, which empowers operators to launch digital telco brands anywhere in the world. Sorry, I'll grab my seat and come there. Warm welcome, guys. I think it's going to be fun. So I think I will start off by trying to break the ice and getting you all to share, right? Basically, your company strategy, right, for digital transformation. I think we'll start internally in your company. And if there is areas where you're doing it outside your company, meaning that you are actually taking it across other industries and stuff like that. And specifically your role within this space. So in no order, we'll start with maybe Sergey.
Hello, it works now? Yeah, okay, good morning. Well, internally, I think that we are applying AI in all the internal processes that we have in the company, which basically we are trying to reduce all the bureaucracy to create more synergies between the team, to have all the information we have in the company, which I think it's a common activity from everybody, right? And in terms of externally, I think that we are a non-for-profit organization, which is composed of private and public organizations too. And the good thing is that we are directly involved in the board of directors of the Secretary of Telecommunications from the Catalan government, which means that they are putting a research center in the core decisions of the government. And I think this is innovative because we are bringing a value that on the day-to-day operations people do not see. So we try to give a large view of what could be the future impact of technologies, and it really changes the operations of the government in all the digital departments that they have. And well, my role, I am the Chief Technology Innovation Officer, and basically it's to be sure that there is this coordination between the public administration, between the private sector, and we as an element which are in the middle, and how we are able to orchestrate all these activities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Arpad?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought you were going to ask me last, Kevin. I'm still recovering from carrying my chair here. I thought you were going to do that for us. It's about breaking the ice. So, I mean, first and foremost, we are a advisory firm. I'm representing EY with an ASEAN focus. Internally, we do have a very, very aggressive and bold attention on digitalization or DX. As Sergey mentioning, we are leveraging technologies, emerging technologies to digitize our own processes, automate where we can, but also to test so we understand how we can serve our clients better. We also leverage DX to cross-pollinate between different types of LOBs. So I'm representing consulting. As most of you know, we have audit, we have tax. So how do we leverage DX to bring all those together and drive further automation, allowing our clients to excel? Now, externally, which is a inside-outside approach to the market, to our clients, we obviously leverage our propositions, the DX that we're experimenting, we are validating internally to our clients. So one example, because I also worry about time, Kevin, is how we use AI or Gen AI in enterprise risk management for telcos, which is not a super compelling space for most, not spoken about. I haven't heard anyone speak about that in these forums for the past few years, but still a wide space. So that's how we take it externally. And it's obviously much more, and I can go on, but with respect to the others, I will pause there, pass it back to you, Kevin.
Thank you. Sorry, I got to announce, actually, Dr. Yujia is actually a proud parent. He's actually sacrificing his time. His wife just delivered last week, end of last week. So go ahead, Dr. Yujia.
Thanks, Kevin. So my name is Yujia. I'm a surgeon based in Singapore. So I guess I come from a very different perspective, from a health system rather than from an industry. And in terms of DX transformation, I guess over the last few years, what we have tried to do is not just to focus on the front-end systems, but also on the back-end infrastructure and how do we actually support the communications and the integration of data and networks to make sure that we don't just develop information silos and digital silos, but we develop a whole ecosystem that can support the operations within the hospital itself. When it comes to external outside the hospital, we do work with multiple partners in different parts of the world, in Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, US, UK as well. We engage different healthcare systems and different hospitals differently. Sometimes we do collaboration projects. We work with them together to develop new capabilities. Sometimes we license out our own AI algorithms and even compute time on our own supercomputer within the hospital for other groups and other people to test their algorithms as well. Myself personally, my main involvement when it comes to medtech and innovation is to deal with XR technology, mainly mixed reality. And it's mainly on the deployment of within the hospital itself, meaning that we actually use it to treat our patients and not just for training and education. And of course, over the last 1.5 years, I've spent a lot of time on 5G technology. We have just deployed our own private indoor 5G network within the hospital. We renovated 10 of our operating theaters with its own private indoor antennas and 4 of our wards with its private antennas as well, using actually Ericsson technology together with Singtel. Yeah, and I'm happy to say that we actually just signed off on the network and the infra on Tuesday, where we conducted our final test, and it's actually in operation now. So hopefully in the future, I'll be able to share some of our experiences in using this network. Thank you.
Great. So it looks like, Christopher, you're buying lunch today. Okay, next up we have Zaif, please.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Well, first of all, thanks to Chris and Kangren for great keynote speeches here. I think very relevant topic of digital transformation. I think in the keynote in the early morning, it was mentioned that what does innovation mean, right? And then I think now it's about, okay, digital transformation. So the question would be, how do we define digital transformation in the first place? And everybody will have different ways of defining what digital transformation is to you, your family, or to your company, or to nations and societies and clubs and very different communities. So representing NTT Group with the NTT Communications, from a telecoms perspective, from a connectivity service provider perspective, we define digital transformation as the use of different and various technologies, such as IoT, AI, and the different technologies mentioned by Ericsson and also by KT, but keeping 5G and the mobile infrastructure at the core. And by utilizing these technologies, are we able to provide better customer experience? And are we able to deliver value to the society and solve the issues that we have in the society? So this is how NTT would define digital transformation. So having said that, are we practicing that? I'm in the company which has a group that has 330,000 employees. Just imagine, how are we going to put all these people together? We need to have some sort of solution. So internally, how to bring these people together? Of course, we have different changes in the software that we use. We had mentioned of hardware-software relationship. So these things will be ongoing, and it will never end. But are we really good at it? I would say not so much. Internally, we have so many issues. We have system issues. There are things that are still done on paper. There's still people using Excel sheets, you know, thanks to Microsoft. So there are many things that has to be solved. On the external front, what are we doing is the technologies that I just mentioned, collaborating with the different ecosystem partners, we come up with solutions. And we are good at that. We have a very robust pipeline of 5G solutions, especially with the video streaming, making use of metaverse, Web3, and these other new initiatives that we have. We are well progressing forward. But is it for all? Not yet. So I think these are the discussions that we need to move forward with, and I think Chris and Kangren positioned very well, and especially in the automotive sector. I mean, automotive, it's something that will take you from one place to the another. And if you go on a broader scale, it's mobility. This morning, I'll tell you, I had a big problem here to get a cab. Serious. How many did you have a problem getting a cab? I don't know. I'm coming from Tokyo, and I'm like, I have my own car, but I don't have my car here. So, KT has to give me one car. I don't know. So, but it took me 40 minutes to get a cab. I'm happy I woke up early. But that's what it is, right? So are the digital, apps, these things that we have in our pockets, the mobile phone, is it really solving our problem? I think that's what we have to address. The technology is there, but how do we address the needs? And how do we match it to the needs of the people in different places? I think that's what digital transformation discussion has to be about.
Great, excellent. Flying taxi maybe by next year. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Ashish. Go
Yep.
ahead.
Thanks, Kevin. And good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And really excited by the diversity of perspectives that are coming in when the topic about digital transformation is opening up. And I'm really glad to be following Zeph because I think he actually touched upon a few points which I wanted to talk about as well. So I'll talk about digital transformation more from a consumer perspective. So just to share a bit about Circles, from where I'm representing Circles today. So Circles was the first digital telco in Singapore. We are also the first digital telco in Taiwan, and I think a very early digital telco in Australia as well. So we are actually a digital native within this industry. We are an 8 or 9-year-old company born in the internet world. In fact, we were designed for the internet world, right? We started with no physical presence, everything to be done digitally. And we really tried to model ourselves as an organization, our way of working on the internet companies and not a telco company. I would say that journey has been quite exciting. We have also learned a lot that digitization for us doesn't mean only digital, but it means digital first. So we are also, learning, and we are going into the phygital space as this terminology is becoming more and more popular, but starting from digital. So I think that if I look at that lens to, just follow your structure, Kevin, internally I would say that we were digitally architected as an organization, but of course we continue to learn on how to improve our digital quotient each and every day. Now, externally, we are actually in the business of digital transformation for telcos. So, I mean, we've been talking about that telcos need to transform themselves, not just on the enterprise space, but there's a lot of transformation required on the consumer space as well, which is where the lion's share of business still resides for telcos. So leveraging our learning from the past decade of how to build a digital telco and how to run it successfully, we are actually helping a lot of telcos around the world, not just by giving our technology, which is a platform, but also the digital DNA, because I think that part is sometimes get missed out when we talk about the transformation. It's not just the technology, but the DNA and the culture that has to come along with it. So we proudly share our learnings, our experiences with other telcos, give that together with the technology, and help them transverse the path from where they are today to where they would want to be. And we believe that we can help a lot of them in that journey. So that's what we do externally when it comes to digital transformation. My role particularly in this is, as the head of strategy there, is to really create a proposition which would be relevant for telcos, and also then, of course, find a way on how we can communicate that and actually get to them and create a strategy that, or a methodology through which we can actually deliver the proposition. So that's what I work on and support Circles with. So very interested to hear all the different perspectives, and I hope to contribute in the discussion.
It's a very wide panel, which is good. Thanks, Ashish. Okay, so from now on, what I'll do is ask questions, and please feel free to jump in and be as interactive as possible, right? We don't need to follow any kind of structure. So my leading question would be, what strategies on digital transformation do you think have been applied commercially, right? And is showing positive results based on industries you are aware of, right? No particular order, please feel free. Zaif?
You threw it at me. Okay, fine. So, I mean, I would say, let's make it more relevant. I think we had a very good, introduction of the automotive sector by Mr. Kangrim Choi. So nowadays, if I can focus on the automotive, they have connected cars. Now the question is, when you have a connected car, what would that really mean to you as a consumer, as an OEM maker, or as all the other ecosystem, maybe the tier one suppliers were involved in the defining what that connected car will look like. And I think more importantly, the infrastructure that will be surrounded around it. And I go back to that because, I had a taxi issue this morning. And I think it's very important to the point you mentioned, because this now also relates to the wider mobility part, not just the automotive. So it will connect to the drones, it will connect to the different easy bikes, kickboards, different type of things that we use in the cities. So transportation, including logistics, fleet management, I think these are the areas that are really, really gathering a lot of data. Because when you have movement of one person to one place to another, whether it's the vehicle, whether it's the person, people want to gain data. And if you also want to gain on the logistics side, okay, what is in that container? What are the things that are being shipped from one place to the another? And who needs what where? So all these things, I think, are now already being commercialized in many, many industries, and people are taking advantage of this. So logistic companies, even automakers, I would say on a holistic perspective, this is a sector that is taking advantage also of AI. If I move a little bit further to the container business, like they're having systems where people used to have all these containers just stacked up the way they wanted, but more recently they have this AI system which tells that if this container is coming today, it will be leaving tomorrow at this time. So it will be stacked in such a way so that they don't have to move different containers and they can still be able to take the right container at the right time, like a just-in-time delivery. So the concepts that we have from the past are there, but I think industries in the automotive and making it a bit wide range to different areas, even to the ports, even to the things that move around logistics, I think these are the areas that are going to benefit from AI technologies, different algorithms, and the ecosystem and the collaboration that we do with different partners that can provide a holistic solution.
Zaif.
Yeah. Well, let me add something here. I mean, I think that before you were commenting, for example, the fact that what innovation means, right? But I think that we also need to understand what digital transformation means. Why I say this? Because we have a big fight also inside the region, because some people understand digital transformation as the fact that you just put a laptop or a service on a platform, and what you are changing is the business processes, right? But the other thing is that we are trying to push to understand what does it mean digital technology transformation. Because it's how you are able to use the technology to change the business model. And this is not only changing the business processes, it's changing the whole value chain. And for this is important to make people understand the importance of the convergence of the different technologies together. And you can only do this if you have the proper infrastructure to accept, a reduced time on the communications, the high process of AI, and many other things together. And here is where it's always important to stress about the technology war, because it will only happen if we are using the right technology in the right place with the right infrastructure. And it cannot be confused, because sometimes when we talk with the people from the government about digital transformation, they think that everything is solved just giving a smartphone to the people, just giving some type of connectivity, and I think that here we have to domesticate a bit them and to use these technologies that you're now commenting, for example, to change the business models and not just the business processes.
Arpad?
I concur with both. What I also want to share is to be also specific on certain cases where DX been successful, but also changing a nation to an extent, changing people's lives, excelling the lifestyle of people. And I'm constraining myself to growth markets with developing countries, particularly Indonesia, Philippines. Now, part of what we do at EY is there is a session tomorrow too in terms of ecosystems and how we can drive more efficient collaborations and synergies and synthesize with various technology sources across the TMT ecosystem, in short. We drive that aggressively, and we also have, which most of you know, the Entrepreneur of the Year awards that is highly renowned globally. Now, with that, obviously, we strive to unlock value from our clients, telcos in this case, to find opportunities where they leverage DX, but also with emphasis on tech. And there are certain cases where there's been huge success in this. One is Indonesia, ULA, ULA, which is a startup or scale-up today that transforms supply chain for micro SMEs. And they're simply re-engineering a process, right? Supply chain process, but they're leveraging tech and also connectivity in terms of the mobile network and other assets where it's available. And that's, in my opinion, a huge success case, because it's, and referring to what you said, Zaif, it's also to look at what are the pain points, our markets, our consumers or users, partners, SMBs, enterprises have. Look at that, and obviously then you address various solutions, whether it's through 5G, 4G, fiber, coming soon, 6G and so forth. ULA, with some of the MNOs in Indonesia, did that in a successful way. That's one. The second is Growstar in the Philippines, transforming the sari-saris, which are also like micro SMEs as well in the Philippines with similar approaches, collaborating closely with the likes of Globe Telecom. And I'm going to continue on that path. I would say Globe is also a success story in that sense, because they have Consult MD, which was became a lever of driving or using DX as a way of penetrating accessibility or driving accessibility of healthcare for people in the lower income segments. That's third. And obviously, being here in Korea and Seoul, I would say Kakao and the way Kakao collaborated with KT, also Coupang, will show how Coupang and likes of Kakao have actually democratized their spaces. I mean, Coupang in terms of logistics, leveraging KT's tech, as we saw earlier today, has been a blessing for all of us, right, who lives here, in terms of getting what you need when you need it. And I can continue, of course, but those are 4 cases I see being success cases where I see, and there's been a strong collaboration between the various forces in this ecosystem, where they have looked at demands, needs, pain points, right, and then come up with solutions that make sense, but also driving good, right? Again, I'm referring back to what you said, if there needs to be something good in it as well. Yeah, I will pause then and pass it to Ashish.
Yeah, thanks, Arvid. I would just like to build on the points that have been voiced so far, and I think all valid and makes a lot of sense. I just want to maybe share a different perspective to say in this whole phrase of digital transformation, I want to focus more on the word transformation than digital. And what I mean to say is that I'm not saying that digital is not important. It is, of course, and that's something that's an enabler that's driving something. But transformation is equally important as a term, right? And transformation, by definition, it means that something has to be radically different. Not incrementally, but has to be something that has to be developed completely on a clean sheet. And what we have seen when we actually support a lot of telcos on the digital transformation side is the approach that has worked for some of them really well is coming from a complete clean sheet approach. And what I mean by that is to say that we are not building incrementally as to what exists today. For example, Sergey talked about transformation of the business processes. Zef mentioned that entity with 300,000 people in there. Imagine how difficult is it to take years of multiple decades of processes and such a large organization and to put a layer to say, I will make it digital, right? What does that mean? How do you change the business processes? How do you retrain 300,000 people to work in a different way? I think that a lot of time that becomes it's become an insurmountable challenge. So what does a clean sheet approach strategy that we have been using and actually also helping a lot of telcos with is to then incubate something right from ground up, completely new, completely different, incubate something at an arm's length, right? Build that organization from scratch, a new organization, a new way of working. And it would involve people who come from that digital mindset already, right? So you will need to fill that organization with digital natives because I think that's an important part. Only those guys can drive that digital way of working. And you build something from ground up, and then that's where you can actually lead towards transformation. Then you can see how you can get your existing organization to come and join the new one, right? So that's from a strategy perspective. You're saying that what are strategies that have seen working on that? I think this is one of them we've seen work quite effectively.
Thank you, Ashish.
Yeah, so I
Okay,
mean,
Asia?
just to build on that, I have to agree that the transformation part is essentially critical because working with technology and doing upgrades and everything, upgrading doesn't always mean transformation, right? So for example, in the medical and the healthcare side, when we transition from paper documentation to electronic documentation, is it really considered a digital transformation or is it just a digital upgrade? Right? It depends on how you use that information still, how you tie it into the back end, and is there an additional layer to it, right? Because if, let's say, we are just converting a piece of paper into a laptop or tablet, that's more of a digital or visual upgrade rather than a transformation if we don't do anything else different to what we're doing before. Exactly the same as even for my projects when it comes to mixed reality, right? When we first started using mixed reality technology about 2 years ago, there was that wow factor, converting CT scans, MRI scans from a 2D screen into a 3D hologram. Everyone puts it on and you go, wow, you can see the body in 3D, right? But once you get past that height of the Gartner's curve, then you start to think, have I really done anything different? Has anything changed? If it's just visualizing, and if it's just looking at something in a different perspective, but your fundamental way, for example, for us, the fundamental way of practicing medicine or the fundamental way of treating our patients or our considerations as well as concepts of treating a patient has not changed, does that really equate to a transformation, right? So to us, there has to be that additional layer. What more can we do? What additional information, what additional integration can we perform and can we bring together to really consider this as a true transformation, at least for us in the healthcare sector? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, one is digitization, right, and one is digital transformation, like what you said. So when you talk about transformation, like what Ashish said, it has to be leaps and bounds. It has to have some meaning, right? It's not just automating. You need to actually get some value out of it. Even for your surgery using XR/VR, right? It's about precision then, right? And then you reduce the time for doctors to make the surgery or mistakes being made. So yes, I agree with all of y'all. I think digital transformation is bigger than what we think it is. It's not digitization. Sorry, Zaif and Arpat.
No,
Both are reaching for the
okay.
mic.
Okay. You can,
No, go ahead, Zaif.
Okay.
You are first.
No, I think just to capitalize again, right? So let's say in medicine. So I think also from Ericsson we had about consultation, online consultation.
Again, Ericsson coming up,
Yeah.
so I think dinner and drinks as well.
So no, what I want to say is but in like for example, I'm coming from Japan, and in Japan, it's almost a must that you have to go to meet a doctor to get yourself diagnosed, and I think anywhere it would be the same. So having this online thing, it has to overcome regulations. It has to overcome the market behavior. So whatever we're talking about, whether it's digitization or transformation, it has to be relevant to the market, and it has to be also within the scope of compliance and the laws that regulate that city or state or that nation. So we have to pay attention to these areas as well as we implement those transformation in place. And I think the transformation that we're talking about is, I think in the end, are we getting ways in a new perspective, as he mentioned? And I think it's about, are we finally achieving goals differently, and are we being more innovative? So I think that's the area that we need to look into. So it has to solve some problems, and there has to be a situational factor that I think there was a mention of COVID. During the COVID, a lot of things happened. Some people say, oh, COVID was bad, but maybe it helped us accelerate a lot of things, to get things done, to get our food to the doorstep. So I think that, Arpa, do you want to add a little bit?
No, you call you having constant issues with this, Kevin. I'm just kidding. No, you covered most of it. But I just want to add to like the definition of transformation. Although I do find that we tend, and we're also discussing with clients and within the market, there's a tendency of investing too much time on definitions and semantic over let's just get it done, and knowing the end goal, because I completely agree with you that transformation aims to two things, right? One is need to result in incremental value, whether that's a TSR to your shareholders, or if it's incremental growth of a product that you transform. It depends, right? And the second is efficiencies. It's also need to result in efficiencies. So I put in context of cars, right? Now we have EVs, or AVs, and the transformation goal there is or the end outcome is, one, it becomes more efficient. We don't need to put in as much of manual interventions as before. So obviously it's a huge efficiency gain. And the second, with the adoption of AVs, there will be a gain in terms of monetary outputs as well, right? People will upgrade themselves. That's obviously a important metric for Katie and Katie's partners. What I also want to say is that we've been undergoing this for a long time. This is nothing new. Digital transformation is nothing new. I mean, we started this journey like what, 30 years ago. It's just been taking new type of shapes, and we continue to take new type of shapes for the next decades, right? So that's why I wanted to add. My view is put the emphasis on what do you want to achieve and why. Whether you're calling it the end of the day DX or something else, is actually not that relevant. As long you drive that essential transformation. And now going back to cacao, might be biased since I'm partly based here, but cacao has driven transformations for the past 15 years, right? Incrementally. And it's been resulting in these type of gains I've been mentioning. I've seen that you want me to pause this, I will pause, but yeah.
No, yeah, it's correct, right? I mean, continuous improvement. Is it called Kaizen? Kaizen, right?
Kaizen,
Yeah. So I heard that word, I think, about 40 years ago when I first joined, what is that, Sony in Japan. Okay, so yeah, let's move on. I think, because we don't have much time, I'd like to check with you all, right? If you have some examples which you're aware of in terms of strategic collaboration between stakeholders like governments, enterprises, MNOs, SI enablers, or ICT tech companies that have resulted in a successful story. I'm not sure. I'll open it up if anyone wants to share if they know of such examples. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
okay.
I think it's right up your alley.
Yeah, okay. Well, before I was commenting you about our organization, right? I mean, the value of our organization is not just that we have the government with 5 different departments, is that we have competitors on the board. We have Telefonica, Vodafone, Orange, Juniper, Cisco, Fujitsu. So it's a complete different set of companies that when they are in the same table, they have to share, which is something that not often happens. And we act as a neutral element that it's providing this knowledge they have, needs of the government, and we also have in the board the technical universities of the region. So we are able to gather some of, I would say, experts on specific topics whenever they are needed, because not always the science is needed. You always need to apply maybe innovation or applied research. And I would say that this is a successful model because we have been growing with 2 figures for the last 4 years, which is good somehow. And then I will just briefly also say about the initiative that we created, which is called 5G Barcelona. So we put together the mobile World Capital Barcelona which is one of the, I would say, subsidies somehow from the GSIM, also working together with the conference, and the council, the government, and the main R&D teams working on 5G in the region. And the purpose was how we are able to use Barcelona as a place to run 5G use cases and POCs. Why? Because the people somehow, they feel when there is a new technology entering the market, they feel threatened. And we have to show them that this is an opportunity. And this is a problem, and this is a problem that we have also faced with the fact of the bad marketing that has been behind 5G. Why? Because, I mean, 5G is based on different, I would say, standards. And just with the first standard, we have been announcing the functionalities of the standards that would be coming a few years later. And the expectations has not been matching the technology provided, right? And I think that here there has been like a sense of people are saying that something is changing in the world, but nothing is changed yet. And now we are in the phase that we have 5G SA coming, and it's like we have wasted 3 years convincing people of things that we didn't have. So 5G Barcelona has been running 40 pilots in the city itself, not in labs, and involving different value chain actors from Football Club Barcelona or other actors. And I think that it has brought value to the community because we have shown that this technology enables different actors to be in the game.
Thanks a lot, Sergey. That's a very good example. Barcelona, I know that is, I think, a flagship, what is that, trademark?
Actually, I mean, if you don't mind, I mean, I would just like to draw actually my own experience in deploying 5G within NUHS, right? Because, I mean, our journey to deploying 5G in a hospital was started about 1.5 years ago. And it involved, you know, NUHS as a health system, Microsoft, Singtel, Ericsson, IMDA, which is the Infocom Media Development Authority of Singapore, the Ministry of Health in Singapore, as well as IHIS, which is the Network Security Agency for Singapore. And of course, I think we have a few other vendor, Apocar from Germany, that provides a software solution. Right, so it took 8 different organizations about a year and a half to deploy not just the infrastructure and the renovation works that goes into a functioning hospital. When we were doing renovations in the operating theater was running full-time. We didn't actually close or cancel any cases. What we did was that we worked with the operations team and we rotated the operations around the different operating rooms, and then we essentially did the renovations at night over the weekends to minimize the disruption. So the Ericsson team came down at 10 p.m. on Friday, do the installations, and then they finish. Third time, yeah.
Oh, hi. It goes on
breakfast tomorrow. Yeah, and then they would do the installation until 6 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and hand over the operating theaters back to us on Monday morning, so the surgeries can continue, right? And in terms of the data network that goes behind it, I think we are one of the only networks, or we have one of the only data networks right now that allows us to transmit identified patient data through the internet in real time. And this is behind a secure network that's based on 5G with multiple firewalls, and this is a data network that is approved by the Ministry of Health in Singapore. So I think that's the power behind the collaborations, when everyone knows exactly where the endpoint is, what we're driving towards, the impact that we're making on society, on the patients that we treat. And it wasn't the smoothest of journeys. We had multiples, hiccups, multiple issues along the way, but each time we had a problem, everyone got together, we tried to solve it. I was just counting the other day, at its peak of our project, we had about 70 different individuals working at the same time on this project. Yeah, so I mean, to me, looking at multi-organization collaborations, cross-industry collaborations, I think essentially for me, this is probably one of a good example, I would say.
Very great. I tell you, Dr. Yujia, I've got my colleague Terence. For all of y'all, there's a part 2. Basically, Terence will be running the show. This is part 1, where they'll drill down into actual use cases, and there's a lot of great speakers like what we have here. And Dr. Yujia, I think what you need to do is pen this all down and try to see how we can replicate this in other countries, right? Whatever you've learned, it's really important.
Yeah,
all the
we are.
painstaking.
I mean, we are sort of, we have an open door policy at our hospital. So we are actually now actively engaged with a few institutes and healthcare agencies in different parts of the world, the US, UK, Germany, Korea as well, essentially to try and see whether we can deploy a similar network in their health systems and in a way, like you said, replicate what we did. And of course, avoiding all the mistakes that we made and then building on the lessons that we learned and to make this a lot faster and a lot smoother.
Excellent. Terence is actually launching the report, which I think he will share, where they have use cases, and hopefully you can be part of contributor in the very near future, where we can actually put you as a success story as well.
If I may add a
Sure,
success
go ahead.
case, I mean, not personally involved there, but if you think about the case for India, and it's a really great story of how multiple stakeholders, together with policymakers, came together to increase the digital financial inclusion in the country. So this is where the government set the rails for a universal payment interface of UPI. A lot of other banks and financial platform came together to build applications on top of it. And of course, all of this is underpinned by the mobile infrastructure that is there, because of which every person has a smartphone. They can actually now use this to very easily transfer or do payments from one person to another, P2P payments, payments from a peer to business, a business to peer, direct payment from the government to the benefactors' accounts. So I think that's a really great success story on how a multi-stakeholder collaboration has led to a transformation. Would say that this is a sort of digital transformation for entire nation, and has been quite successful and a great success story. It's now moving into cross-border as well between, let's say, India and Singapore. So
Sorry, I have to make sure that we wrap up. I've already got warning signs, and I can smell the food from here. I guess all your stomachs are all empty as well. So quickly, right? Just go through a 30-second, summary of what are the key takeaways, right? That the attendees can take back, please. Sergey, why don't you start?
Yeah, well, takeaway, I think that is that convergence of technology and collaboration is key for the digital technology transformation. Thanks.
Yeah, I would say that the takeaway, and it's actually something Zaif was building on, is the importance of building the right skills to drive DX, because that's still lacking across major of the industries. And also that's where we obviously helping our clients in excelling. So skills in terms of tech skills, digital agility is essential to succeed.
I think for myself, it's don't be afraid to try and don't be afraid to fail. Right? For us, when we started our XR and 5G journeys, we had no idea whether or not this is going to work out. We could have spent millions and it doesn't work. But we felt that it's worth a try. Even if it fails, we learn something from it. Right? And there's a quote that says the best way to predict your future is to create it. Right? So I think we have to create what we want the future to be.
I would say, in short, I think you need to do your part. So when you have the digital transformation journey, just fill in your piece. You don't have to go out trying to fill in and solving the whole complex issue. If there are things you cannot solve, there will be for sure other people who will come in and help you. So first focus on your area and then work with others. I think that's the key takeaway for the digital transformation strategy.
Yeah, for me, I think from all the discussion and the presentation that happened, a couple of takeaways. One was that it's a multi-stakeholder system that has to come together. And as I've mentioned, everybody has to play the part. So the mobile infrastructure is just the infrastructure, but a lot of stakeholders need to build on top of it to ensure that the right proposition goes to the end customer or the business. I think that's important. It's a collaboration across multiple industry. That's one. And the second point, which I took away, which Arpad actually synthesized and articulated really well, start with an end state in mind, right? What's the end state? And then build from here to there. Now, that could be, I mean, there could be multiple journeys, but you need to have the view of end state, which will eventually be or lead to a higher TSR, right? That's what the goal of the business is. So, yeah, I think these two for me.
Thank you so much, esteemed panelists. Please, a big warm applause for these guys. Thank you all. Lunch will be served just outside. And then please come back for the second session. Terence will definitely entertain you all. Thank you. Thank you, buddy. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Catch a drink. Good stuff, good stuff. Ready? Have a safe journey back. Thank you. See you in touch again.